Hello everyone, welcome back to the fourth part of The Secret of Wootz Damascus Steel Documentary. For those who haven't watched the first three, why not? Why haven't you watched yet if you have not? So I will try to link in the description, so go ahead and watch these first three so you guys can see from the start. So we have seen so far the process of Wootz Damascus, one of the strongest material for the swords, mostly for other materials, for the other items too, knives, but mostly for the sword, because these kind of steel was used in the back when there was a battle stuff. So for now, we just want to look at the other documentary from fourth part, and let's just get into this without further ado, okay?
Wootz is so much more than just a beautiful pattern. The metal has important physical properties. It took an exceptionally keen edge, and it had flexibility and durability. In order to coax a quality Wootz steel from the crucible cake, the next step is what Al describes as a rim treatment.
I guess just bring it on over here. We put it in the box, and then we run it. We generally run this about 30 hours at 1100.
The crucible steel is placed in a tray of iron oxide. This will decarburize the exterior. The intention is to create a low-carbon iron shell or rim around the steel core. It is a necessary step in order to prevent the cake from cracking when forged.
And forging the high-carbon cake with them,
They're forging it very carefully so it doesn't actually get cracked or things like that. It's quite a careful process as well, because they're trying something. It's not something which already has been it has been done before, but they have no idea how they did it, because as he mentioned in 18 and something, the technique has been lost, so that's why they're actually trying it so hard.
purities of phosphorus, which is normal in the natural ores, a lot of them, then you find that it will create a hot shortness, which means that it will tear apart, crack while you're deforming it, and you will have just a lot of little pieces all apart instead of having a solid bar in that you can finish into a product. When you forge it, you have your deformation travels through the material, and if it is encased in this low carbon rim, it doesn't stay torn apart. It welds itself back together under the hammer normally, so you don't end up with cracks and voids if you do not, as the term goes, see the light of day. In other words, oxygen that gets in the cracks, they won't bond themselves back together, and with the sealed up, it will reform their solid deal, even if it cracks some during the forge.
A beautiful Damascus sword is something to behold. The reason that I think people have expressed so much interest in it is because it has this history of appearing in Asia. The Western people ran into it. They didn't know how it was made. It was superior to their steels, and it had a beautiful pattern on it.
Okay, so one more thing which I think I mentioned in the early video, but I will mention again, is that the history it has. Damascus steel has a history. So in back in 1700 and to 1800, actually the Asian from Hyderabad, from India, the material was actually being exported. So in different country to different countries. So just so you know, for those who don't know, India has been divided into two countries, which is Pakistan and India, and I'm actually one of the Pakistan. I live in the Pakistan, so the industry has been divided as well, and so the material, people actually making more Damascus and more history related stuff in Pakistan, Wazirabad, as compared to the India. So the history also has been transferred from India to Pakistan, I would say. Just keep that in mind. I'm not saying in India there is not like quality work as well. I'm not sure, but I'm just saying the Damascus, the term Damascus, this kind of product mostly made in Pakistan, Wazirabad. So let us know if you guys are more interested about this information. Just for now, let's just continue.
And so it has this mysticism about it, which persists to this day.
The pattern indicates the quality of Wootz. So the pattern is something essential for you to distinguish the piece, whether it's good or not.
I like to think that the ancient people making the beautiful Wootz and the people who purchased the weapons made from that used it somewhat as a proof mark. If the Wootz pattern was very pretty, they knew that they had a very good weapon.
Okay, Wootz is the starting steel from which Damascus steel blades are made. A Damascus steel blade is almost always referring to a blade that has a surface pattern on it that is very attractive. There's another type of steel called Damascus steel, and a better name for that type of steel. It isn't what I would call a Wootz Damascus steel or steel. It isn't
pattern
what I
welded.
would call. It's what has been called pattern welded Damascus steel. It has beautiful patterns on it, but it's made by an entirely different process.
In pattern welding, several bars of bloomery iron are forge welded together.
Yeah, remember, for those who haven't seen the first videos, that's why I keep urging you guys to watch first videos, because this Wootz Damascus steel and Damascus pattern welded steel has a totally different process. For those, for Damascus steel pattern welded, what we do is we actually cut different material together and forge them on a hammer and then on fire, and that's how the combination of different materials become a Damascus steel. But for Wootz Damascus steel, there are two things. First, they have lost the secrecy of that techniques has been lost, but the second is they're trying different techniques to make Wootz Damascus steel, which was really proud for people to have one. When they had one Wootz Damascus steel, they knew that it's going to be lost for a long time, and there would not be any fault, any problem with the sword. So that kind of stuff trend they had in the past. But now let's just continue.
These have never been fully melted, and each bar varies in both carbon content and impurities. The smith exploits the different properties, twisting bars together so that hard metals compensate for the soft and the softer ones for the hard. In doing so, he can also create a pattern, one that a skilled smith can in fact predetermine. Pattern welded blades are beautiful, but they are not Wootz.
One more thing, he mentioned that forging a different material. I also mentioned that. But when people ask us how does the twisted and raindrop and their different patterns of Damascus steel, so the basic concept is just combine them together is actually the same for the pattern welded. But when it gets to the pattern like a ladder pattern, raindrop pattern, twisted pattern, fire pattern, each pattern has a different process involved in it in order to give them a look of the pattern what you want to have. So for a twisted pattern, mostly what we do is we twist the bar after forging them together, and there are also some process involved in it. And for ladder, there are some process involved. For raindrop, we actually have some process as well. So that's how it works.
Damascus.
And the Wootz steel is higher quality because it's one.
Yes, I said that.
Wootz steel and more elastic.
Wootz was considered.
Yeah, obviously, if there is it's just like you have one piece, it's obviously going to be more durable, more strong rather than something which has a different material combination. So pattern welded, there is nothing wrong with the pattern welded, and there is nothing wrong with the pattern welded, I would say, as compared to the Wootz Damascus steel. But when it gets to the prices, where most people cannot afford it, so people mostly go for the Damascus steel as compared to the Wootz steel also. Plus, it's not even invented properly yet. It's not even properly made yet, since the secrecy has been lost. So Damascus steel is always good, but Damascus steel is also not bad. it's all about the customer, how much he's paid for, and that's something I believe in.
It's such a premium material and such a valuable material, and the market reflected that. People would pay more for it. Naturally,
Main factor about Wootz Damascus steel, main difference about Damascus steel and Wootz Damascus steel is it has more elasticity. It has more flexibility as compared to the pattern welded Damascus steel. Since Wootz Damascus steel would be the one piece metal, but for Damascus pattern welded, it's going to be welded. That's why we call them pattern welded.
some people decide to make fake Wootz. It takes a trained eye to tell the difference between a good Wootz pattern or imitation pattern that might be dendritic, but is still intrinsic to the material, or maybe some pattern welded steel that had a pattern that looked like Wootz, but it was made by many layers manipulated. So there's a lot of different patterns that can appear on a weapon, and some of them will resemble Wootz, but they're not.
Pattern welded blades range from the subtle to the strikingly bold. It takes skill to produce them, and they are greatly sought after.
So what he's saying is actually the Wootz Damascus steel has been tried by many blacksmiths. So some were able to get a pattern, but that wasn't exactly as Wootz Damascus steel according to the history. So people were able to achieve that, but not exactly according to the history.
The world calls them Damascus steel.
The pattern in pattern welded steel is obvious how it happens. I mean, you can, if you look at it and somebody, most people, when you tell them you have a Damascus steel blade, they say, oh, it's made by folding. Well, a Wootz Damascus steel blade was not made by folding. It's made by magic.
Much of that magic takes place during the next stage. Al calls it thermal cycling. Although the rim treatment is an essential and unavoidable process, it has some consequences which Al has to deal with.
When you do the rim treatment, it forms larger grains. They tend to grow and they get very large, and that weakens the material. And so doing a thermal cycle, it refines the grain. Each time you go up in temperature and down across the threshold limit of the A1, they call it, it forms a new set of austenite grains, which become smaller and smaller. So you have the structure finer, and it's stronger, and it will stand the deformation better.
This thermal cycling, heating, cooling and reheating, manipulates the microstructure of the steel, changing the nature of the grain in order to reduce the internal stresses that will be incurred during forging. If this is not done correctly, the Wootz will be lost. How long to leave it in the furnace? How long to let it cool?
One of the quickest ways to detect it is with a magnet. It becomes magnetic at room temperature. It is magnetic at room temperature. As you heat it above magnetic at room temperature, it is magnetic.
That is one of the way.
The Curie temperature, which is just above the A1, then it becomes non-magnetic. So if you want to test it some way, you can just use a magnet and touch it. If it sticks to it, you know that.
Using a magnet is one of the best technique to check this kind of stuff.
Temperature is below. When it goes above, let it cool back down till the magnet sticks and then go back up.
The number of cycles is something that Al has to judge. It will vary according to the length of time the cake has spent undergoing the rim treatment.
The longer you had heated it before, it would mean that the grain was larger, and they tend to come down fairly rapid once you start cycling. 3 or 4 cycles. I like to go about 6 just to make sure I cover all the bases.
Many people are making cakes and developing a pattern and saying that they have Wootz steel, but under the microscope you can look at it and you'll see that it's something different.
Considerable patience is required to nurse the steel through all its many stages. not knowing until the very end how it is going to turn out. Even then, some Wootz blades are better than others.
Well, the Wootz are not the same. They are not the same in pattern. Some of them are high quality in pattern. That's why Arabs call them the jewel blade or jewel sword, which is in Arabic نصل الجوهر أو فولاذ الجوهر.
When we were looking at ancient swords and we were reading the literature, we knew that there was some Wootz that was much more beautiful than other Wootz. And we have a good idea why that is. And one of our efforts is to improve the look of the Wootz that we make to equal the masters of the old time.
Okay, so I guess that's it for today because we don't want to make sure that you guys are not being bored. So far we have got, I guess, a good piece of advice from these people. First, never give up. Secondly, is every Wootz Damascus steel is not equal. So as he mentioned, just like a pattern welded, each and every Wootz Damascus steel has its own look. One is better than the other one. So that is something is unique about Wootz Damascus steel as well. So for the way they're trying different techniques, hopefully they would be able to achieve something. I'm not sure if they would be able to get the exact one, but definitely there would be something out of it. So for now, I would definitely let you guys know that this is something is related to history. They are not trying like a different random stuff. So for now, thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to have more video reaction. So for now, subscribe to my channel and visit our website www.jwsteelcrafts.com. And if you guys have any disagreement or anything like that, I'm willing to discuss about it. I'm not saying hey, I'm an expert on this. I'm just saying I'm just want to have more knowledge. That's why I'm hungry to have more knowledge about this stuff. That's why I'm actually looking at this stuff. If you guys have any recommendation about things related to this, definitely I would love to do reaction on that. So on this note, thank you so much for watching once again. Have a wonderful day.